Hi, and welcome to our Aerospike presentation, how a better fraud data layer can serve as a competitive advantage. My name is Stuart Tarmy. I'm the Global Director of Industry Solutions for the Financial Service Vertical, and I'm looking forward to this presentation time with you now. So a little background on myself. I have 25 plus years of experience in banking, brokerage, and fintech. I've served as a general manager and the head of sales, marketing, and product management with leading global fintech companies, e-commerce, payments, artificial intelligence, data management, and big data companies in roles with companies such as Fiserv, Allbridge Solutions, which was acquired by Pershing Bank New York Mellon, MasterCard, and McKinsey & Company. Early in my career, I was quite technical and started as a design engineer at Texas Instruments in Dallas, developing machine learning-based computing systems. So I want to share a little bit of information to just give you an overlay of who Aerospike is. So you may not have heard of the company Aerospike, but I think you certainly know us by companies we have, clients we have. So you can see we play in a lot of different industries with ad tech, e-commerce, financial services, new tech, telco, and gaming, and with premier companies like AT&T, the Trade Desk in ad tech, in e-commerce. We do work with Wayfair, Kayak, Walmart. In financial services, we have a very deep footprint. You can see we work with companies like Charles Schwab, American Express, Fidelity's, Barclays, PayPal, and others. And as you look to the right of the slide, you can see companies like Verizon Media, Nokia, and Sony Interactive Entertainment. So let me dig a little bit deeper into the financial service firms. So what we do is we're able to power companies that require extremely fast response times over very large data sets. That's where we play. So if you were looking at a graph of speed and volume of data processed, we're in the upper right-hand quadrant and are the leader in that. So real quickly, some work we do with some financial service companies. PayPal, we help them with their payment fraud prevention. Using our services, they've been able to achieve 30 times less false positives and save approximately $5 million a day in fraud. With Barclays, we help power their artificial intelligence for credit card fraud detection. They have been able to reduce their latency by 80%, increasing their throughput by 400%. And they process about 10 million daily transactions. Schwab is a very interesting client. We help them with their pre-trade risk assessment for investors who want to place trades. They process about 250 million transactions a day. We do some work there with them where we help them take batch processes that are done in their mainframe and move them into a real-time customer experience. For the European Central Bank, we help them with their real-time digital payments. Here, part of the use case was to reduce their transaction costs per payment to a very, very low number. You can see they're 0.002 euros, and enable them to scale across thousands of European banks. We also do work with in payments with a firm called Early Warning that owns a payment network called Zelle. And we help them do this faster and better. With us, they've seen a 40 to 50 times ability to scale their volumes, and we provide them 20 millisecond or less response times to meet SLAs. We did replace HBase there with Early Warning. And lastly, just want to point out is the work we do with Threat Metrics, which is one of the leading digital identity securities firms. They're owned by LexisNexis. With us, they've seen a 3-time reduction in servers and a 3 times improvement in their SLAs. And in this case, we were a replacement for Cassandra. So a little bit of the agenda I want to cover. So I want to talk about the business perspective of fraud, how fraud is analyzed today, some case studies, and talk some about our fraud layer architecture to make this happen. So let's talk about some business perspectives of fraud. So first off, there's a lot of reasons why you want to deal with fraud. First, there's a substantial cost to your business. You have losses. Fraud overall totals in the billions in the industry. You have chargebacks. You have investigation costs related to fraud. reconciliation costs, false positives, false negatives, all these things that hurt your business, that if for no other reason than these reasons here, you should want to address your fraud issues and become as competitive as you can be. But I want to talk about something even more interesting, which is using your ability to manage fraud and risk as a strategic growth driver for your business. So if you are able to better analyze your fraud and risk profile, you'd be able to better tailor your customer services and solutions to make yourself more competitive vis-a-vis your competition. This would allow you to have significant opportunities to meet your strategic objectives, to grow revenue, to increase your profitability, and to reduce your customer churn. And most importantly, to differentiate your business. So I want to talk now about some real case examples around two firms. One is BillPoint and one is Signet. So let me talk about BillPoint first. So BillPoint is a very interesting company. BillPoint was the initial payment solution for eBay, and it was actually a joint venture between eBay and Wells Fargo Bank. It started in 1998, and PayPal also started in 1998. And what happened here, we all know that PayPal became the winner in this industry. PayPal really concentrated on fraud as well as user experience, and was able to leapfrog BillPoint that focused on other things. One of the issues around PayPal in its early days working with eBay is that they had tremendous fraud levels. They had huge chargebacks. Criminals were using PayPal to launder money and to do other bad things. Were doing phishing attacks. And in their early days, the early 2000s, their fraud rate had soared to areas that were not sustainable for the company. What PayPal was able to do was put in a lot of effort into their fraud algorithms and their real-time fraud solutions, and be able to move forward and become the best solution out there. Ultimately, what happened is that eBay bought PayPal in 2002 for $1.5 billion, and they shut down BillPoint within the next year. So this was a huge win by PayPal to use their ability to manage fraud to become the dominant payment platform out there. Interestingly enough, eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion. Today, PayPal's market cap is over $220 billion. So have done very well. The next example I want to show you is Signet. And so Signet, as you may know, became Capital One. So in 1994, Signet announced the corporate spinoff of its credit card division, which was called Oakstone Capital, and put it out there. And it was a very, very small little company. It only had 4 million customers and $6.6 billion in credit card loans outstanding. Signet, or I should say Capital One, focused very, very heavily on analytics. When you think of analytics in financial services, there's a few companies you think of. Capital One is certainly one of the very, very top companies here. And so they focused on fraud as a huge area to focus on, and their risk management. And what that enabled them to do was to tailor credit card offerings highly focused to specific customers. So, for example, if they had a customer who had a very high credit rating, they wanted to give that person an offer of, say, the lowest rate, lowest fees. It was a very desirable client for them. And because they could measure and manage the risk, they could do that. Likewise, there were other customers who did not have, for instance, such great credit ratings. They didn't really necessarily want them as clients, but they were willing to have them as clients if they were profitable enough. And so they could tailor, credit card rates and fees appropriately for that customer. And in doing so, really market themselves very, very tightly. So in this case, just to share, so I said that when Signet spun them off in 1994, they had 4 million customers and $6.6 billion in credit card loans. Today, they have 62 million credit card customers and $107 billion in credit card loans. So this has been a enormous success, showing what they could do with fraud. All right. So why is fraud and the management of fraud so important? Well, it's pretty simple. The fraudsters are getting smarter and smarter. Credit card fraud, as an example, has changed because of EMV smart cards. EMV stands for Europay, MasterCard, Visa. And this is the chip card you can see on the left here that has been placed on the cards. The chip made it so that you couldn't read the mag stripe. It had built-in security, both at the software and the physical security level, and made it very difficult for fraudsters to use traditional fraud techniques prevalent on mag stripes. MasterCard actually saw a 54% decrease in fraud costs as merchants and retailers accepted these chip cards. But what happened is the fraudsters caught on, and they moved on to easier channels. Just like a bank robber is not going to go after the bank that has the highest alarm system and security, they're going to go to those places more vulnerable. And that's what the fraudsters have done. So the fraudsters have moved over to look at where card situations where there's card not present, and where they can do identity fraud. So that's what they're focused on. So let me talk about how fraud is analyzed today. So in the early days, you had rule-based systems, and there were vendors and companies that put out rule-based systems, and these worked to a certain extent. Here you could use program in hundreds or thousands of rules, but the problem with this system is it was static, it was hard to update. The fraudsters were always one level ahead of them. So the industry, has then moved over to what we see a lot of today, which is artificial intelligence, machine learning-based systems. And here, these systems are smarter. They can be self-learning. You can use anywhere from tens of attributes into the hundreds of data attributes, and do this over very large data sets. And this has made a very, very big increase in combating fraud. So this is something to be very aware of. Where is the industry going now? Well, the industry is going more over into neural nets and deep learning. This is an area where they use you can use millions of data points. Some firms are actually using up to 10 million data points. PayPal, who's very aggressive in this area to reduce fraud and manage fraud, has actually seen a 10 to 20% reduction in fraud over their traditional artificial intelligence machine learning based systems. So very, very powerful work here. So the evolution of fraud systems, I want to talk about needs for a second. Let me just move the slide. So the needs of to combat fraud is you have to be able to work across very large data sets. This can be in the terabytes. This can be in the petabytes. You want to be able to handle real-time processing at sub-millisecond levels so that you provide a good customer experience. You want to be able to deal with multiple data sources. We talked about how you can use tens to hundreds of attributes, and in the neural net deep learning can be in the millions. So you have to be able to handle multiple data sources, which are often distributed. The next one is, these systems are mission critical. You have to have a very high reliability, right? The payment system can't go down. And lastly, you'd like all this to be affordable to do. So let me share now and talk about some customer case studies that we work with. And the first one I'll talk about is PayPal. I talked about this before, so I won't go deeply into this, but the key thing here is that we power their global fraud prevention network. They handle about 280 billion payments annually. Aerospike replaced for PayPal an Oracle and Terracotta system, and were able to reduce their server footprint by 15 times. At the same time, improving their SLAs and providing them a 30-time reduction in false positives. So here's one more slide on PayPal. We were able to move them from 98.5% SLA percentage to meet their SLAs to 99.95 up to 100% to meet their SLAs. And this enabled them to move from $5 million at risk per day to $0.17 million at risk today. So a very, very big win for PayPal. The next one I want to talk about is LexisNexis. So with threat metrics. So here they help provide identity fraud solutions to customers. They process about 130 million transactions daily across 40,000 websites. And they focus on hundreds and hundreds of attributes that they have to be able to process in less than 100 milliseconds. So we replaced Cassandra with them. Here they saw a 3 times server reduction, going from 96 servers down to 28, and improve their latency by 300%. We also, importantly, enabled them to grow, where they were planned growth from 450 terabytes up to 1.3 petabytes, and saved them $3.3 million over 3 years. Let me just talk a little bit about Barclays. So with Barclays, we were able to help them reduce their false positives and false negatives, which we all know is critical. Importantly, they wanted to be able to build for growth. They were looking at 6 times growth, wanted to plan for over the next 3 years. So we enabled them to do that. At the same time, reducing their total cost of ownership to update, change, and manage the system. So let me now talk about just a little bit on early warning. So early warning owns Zelle, which is a payment network. There we replaced HBase, and we beat out Couchbase and Redis for this business. They were able to triple their data sets to 25 terabytes while reducing their node count 66%. The Aerospike solution enabled them better stability in terms of updates and node management. And they no longer have to turn away new customers. They're able to scale appropriately. And very important, they can meet their SLAs at a 99.99% rate within a 10 to 20 millisecond window. So let me just talk in closing about the fraud data layer architecture that we use. So a couple things to focus on here. You can see Aerospike is in the left-hand side and also in the right-hand side. Aerospike helps with loading the data. This is typically transactional production data, and it can be at the core. The Aerospike system can serve as the system of record here. And Aerospike would work in conjunction with Spark to do the processing and be able to do this in a fraction of the time that was done before. The data can then be enriched, you can see with an Aerospike, and then moved over into the training model training, model validation, and parameter tuning area, and then served out for the application downstream. Aerospike can also help with high performance machine learning pipelines. Here you can see Aerospike databases 1 through N. They're being fed by multiple data sources on the left-hand side. It uses Kafka to share the data, and then can be ingested into Spark for processing. And then you can see can flow through the system. Use Jupyter for some of the testing, and then get pushed out at the back end into a core system to be used by the applications. So you can see it's a fairly streamlined implementation and relatively easy for Aerospike to install into your environment. I'll show one more example here of a global ad tech company, and then I want to share this because I just want to talk a little bit about the parallelization and ability to work across enormously large data sets. So here they dealt with 13 billion objects and had 150 unique data elements and terabytes data elements that they had to process multiple times a day. So here we were able to reduce their server footprint. They were able to use 33 Aerospike servers to support 300 Spark nodes across 7,500 cores. And this was able to increase decrease, I should say, their total cost of ownership for their future data growth. So with that, this is actually all the time I have for the presentation. If you have any questions, we'd love to speak to you further. You can either contact me at the email address below. You can come to our website at aerospike.com/FSI, and we'd be happy to talk to you about your goals and how you can accelerate your business. I want to thank you for your time. during this presentation. And I do want to invite you to come join us at our virtual conference booth if you'd like to talk more. So thank you again.